Finally, Giannis Antetokounmpo makes his decision and the rest of the NBA reacts. What is this going to mean for the trade market? Plus, Russell Westbrook makes a decision as well. Who knew? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. All right, so the big news, finally, Brian Windhorst saying that Giannis Antetokounmpo is not requesting a trade. Now, he said in the short-term future. To me, I read that's this summer. Could that maybe change mid-season? Potentially. That would mean short-term future to me. But this is Windhorst. The league has come to terms with the real realization that the Bucks are going to keep him. Giannis is not going to ask for a trade. So obviously that is a huge domino. The biggest domino of this NBA offseason was what's going to happen to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Will he finally ask out from the Milwaukee Bucks? I've been saying it for a while now that essentially Giannis has two choices. He can contend for a championship or he can stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. He cannot do both of those things. And Giannis apparently has chosen to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. And you know what? A lot of people are going to give him flack for that. A lot of people are going to say, oh, he doesn't want to win. He's not competitive, all of that. No, you know what? There is something special. There's something nostalgic to me about a player staying with one team for their entire career. And again, Wendy did say this was the short-term future, so maybe this changes, but Giannis is showing loyalty to Milwaukee. Now, does this mean he can never contend if he does decide to spend his entire career in one city? No, not necessarily. Milwaukee does have some cap flexibility next summer, not this summer. I do look at this. If Giannis has truly decided, that's it, I do not want to be traded this summer, then he is banking on the cap flexibility because we know the Bucks are going to be lacking in terms of assets. They don't have draft capital to go and significantly remake this roster. But next summer, there is a lot of flexibility. Bobby Portis right now comes off the books. I know they don't want to lose him, but as it's presently constructed, Pat Connaughton, Kevin Porter Jr., you also would only have 1 year remaining. It would be an expiring contract on Damian Lillard. And I think if you're honest, you look at the Bucks and you say, you know what? The East, as we've said, it's wide open. The Boston Celtics are going to sell off some talent as they try to dip below that second-tier apron and ease their tax bill. And so that creates an Eastern Conference where anybody can really make a run. And I think that's exciting. And if you're a guy like Giannis, you can look at it and say, you know what? I can do enough to give us a run in the East, to get us to where we want to go this season, especially if, let's say, Damian Lillard comes back in March, maybe April, maybe he comes back right before the playoffs, and that gives us a little bit of a boost. And in the East, that may give me just as much of a chance to go all the way to the finals as I would if I went to a Western Conference team, given how difficult that conference looks right now. If I get traded to, say, the Spurs, do I have a better shot at getting to the finals versus just staying here in Milwaukee and hoping that the team that I've been with for my entire career can make a few moves around me, give me a little bit of help here, and then we can make a real run in an Eastern Conference that, as I said, is wide open. So I think that's the thought process for Giannis. I think you have to look at players like Kobe Bryant. You have to look at players like Dirk Nowitzki, how much they were revered for staying with one team for their entire career. And once again, if this is truly Giannis's decision that he wants to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks, then congratulations to him. And this is a huge win for not just the Bucks organization, but also Milwaukee itself. Those fans, that fan base is so connected with Giannis. And if Giannis has decided that, hey, even though we may not have a clear shot at winning this next year, even though I'm going to have to show a little bit of faith in the organization to believe that next summer we're going to be able to make some significant changes here, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that is, again, a huge vote of confidence from Giannis, and will only further to continue to connect Giannis to the only NBA city that he's ever called home. So there it is, everybody. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the NBA? Well, actually, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I know there were a lot of teams that were hoping, let's face it, 29 teams are making the call if Giannis Antetokounmpo asks out. But the benefit of this happening now is that the market can move forward. Had Giannis requested a trade, what that could have done is frozen everything. It would put everything on hold as every team would stop whatever they were doing and they would wait to see what the Giannis situation played out to be. And that's even teams who who were not in position to land Giannis themselves, because teams would try to become a third team, a fourth team, maybe fifth team. Given how much Giannis makes and how big of a deal this would be, we'd be talking about a multi-team trade here. Teams would be waiting on making other moves so they could see if they could get into a Giannis trade, even if they weren't the team actually receiving Giannis Antetokounmpo. So what this does is it gives certainty to the market heading into the NBA draft, which is now less than 2 weeks away, and it gives teams an opportunity to pivot. I do think this will further ignite the Kevin Durant chase, because teams that would have been interested in Giannis Antetokounmpo, if he is firmly not on the market now, they will pivot their attention towards KD. And once again, they don't have to wait now to find out what's happening with Giannis before they turn their attentions to Kevin Durant. So to me, I think this is going to make it all the more certain that Kevin Durant, by draft night, will be wearing a different uniform. He will be playing for a different team. John Gambadoro, who does a great job covering things out of Phoenix, said that we could see the Kevin Durant trade market really heat up next week. It could even be a done deal next week, though it's not there yet. So I would expect with this Giannis news, the pivot will be on for Kevin Durant, and I would expect to see Kevin Durant moved by draft night so the Suns could use whatever draft capital they get back in any kind of a Kevin Durant deal immediately to try to land pieces around Devin Booker. The Miami Heat, one of the teams that are in the mix, the rumor from today that they're reluctant to give up Kelly Ware in a Kevin Durant trade. I don't blame them for that. I'd be reluctant to give him up too. But that said, KD is KD. There's been talk about Houston potentially being a team to go land him. They've got that 10th pick of the NBA draft that could be enticing. So I think this is going to be a really exciting Kevin Durant market, and we'll see where he ultimately lands. But that was not the only decision made. No. It wasn't just Giannis Antetokounmpo. It was also Russell Westbrook, who, according to Mark Stein, made what I think was a bit of a surprising decision. Russell Westbrook is declining his player option for next season to become an unrestricted free agent on June 30th. League sources told the Stein line Westbrook had until the 29th to make the decision on his $3.5 million player option for next season, and will now proceed to free agency after averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists per game. So Westbrook did have the opportunity to become a free agent, and he is going to take that, meaning that he will turn down that $3.4 million player option for this next season. So what does this mean? Well, this time of year, let's face it, players, teams, they already have a pretty good sense of who's going where and what things are going to look like in free agency. Yes, technically free agency isn't going to start until June 30th, but let's not kid ourselves. We know conversations do happen ahead of time. The NBA just doesn't want them to be made public, and that's fine. Russell Westbrook this past season, again, 13 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. Like he had a solid season, 32% from three. The turnovers, always a concern, 3.2 turnovers per game. But nonetheless, Russell Westbrook must know, if he's turning down that player option, that there's another team out there that he either feels like is a better situation or is going to pay him more money, and perhaps both. Could it be the Denver Nuggets? Yes, sure, it could be. I mean, he is still a free agent. The Denver Nuggets could decide to bring him back. This doesn't necessarily mean he's gone from Denver, but it will give him the opportunity to explore other teams in free agency. And given the weakness of this free agent class overall, if you're Russell Westbrook and you know your ceiling is maybe a taxpayer mid-level, that $5.7 million somewhere, I don't know if there's a team that would dip into the full mid-level exception, but maybe. But there are enough teams that have access to those exceptions, even though there's not a lot of free agency money out there. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously, they don't make sense as a landing spot for them, but the Brooklyn Nets are one of the few teams that actually have money in free agency to go spend. But because Russell Westbrook is probably going to be an exception player anyway, if he's already hearing that somebody out there is willing to give him, let's call it the taxpayer mid-level exception, and it's a landing spot that he likes, then this makes a lot of sense for him to go ahead and opt out. He'll get a new deal, and off we go. And let me say this about Russell Westbrook. I do think to a degree he gets a bit of a raw deal in terms of the public perception of him as a player. And the problem that Russell Westbrook has is that when he makes mistakes, the mistakes are very, very loud. They're very noticeable. Bad turnovers, missing layups, things of that nature. And you can argue that Russell Westbrook doesn't play winning basketball. And I've seen all those comments. We've certainly had, coming from a Lakers perspective, we've certainly had those conversations. But I did think that Russell Westbrook played better in the postseason for the Denver Nuggets. He still made his mistakes, but he also made his positive impact as well. So I think he can help a team out there. He can still be a challenging fit. So I'm really curious to see where Russell Westbrook ultimately winds up. I think you got to look for a veteran heavy team that has a chance to compete, but also has a system in place. Maybe a team like Miami comes to mind, someone like that. Could he go try to give the Knicks a boost off the bench, somebody like that? That'll be interesting to see where Russell Westbrook ultimately lands. But he will hit free agency, and this is another name out there now on the guard market, a guard market that actually isn't that bad for an overall free agent class. It's very shallow. There are some interesting guards out there. And now you add Russell Westbrook into the mix. But everybody, give me your thoughts. Where will Russell Westbrook ultimately land? Let me know in the comment section down below. And what do you think about Giannis Antetokounmpo? Apparently deciding I'm going to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, give me your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.